At the funeral, Lucas walked slowly up to his father and handed him a sealed envelope. "Mom asked me to give this to you after she died." Olaf stared at the envelope, his trembling hands opening it and breaking the seal. He unfolded the paper and read. One tear fell, then another, and then he wept. Hard wept, for the very first time. Memories flooded in, overflowing his head and choking his air. Everything now flashed before his eyes.
"Emma, I'm sorry, I cannot continue living this lie. I'm in love with another woman, and I want a divorce."
"I accept, but I have two conditions." Are you an English learner looking to improve your language skills through real-life stories? This emotional and beginner-friendly story is perfect for those who want to build their English vocabulary, practice listening, and learn natural daily conversation. With clear narration and English subtitles, you'll not only enjoy the journey but also develop your language step by step. Great for listening practice, understanding emotions in English, and learning how native speakers express feelings. Let this story touch your heart and help your English grow. Love and regret in Oslo. Every night, in his cold Oslo apartment, Olaf lay beside his wife. As his mind wandered far away, chasing the ghost of another woman. A ghost called Sophia. He spent years believing his heart remained trapped in a loveless marriage. Unaware that happiness had been calling every day from the eyes of a woman who harbored a secret in her silence. A secret he would learn one day, but only when it was too late. He never realized that love was not in the one who had set his heart ablaze, but in the gentle warmth he had been ignoring for years. Until the day he ran out of time to undo his mistakes. My brother Olaf was a good man, a gentle heart that life hadn't managed to harden. He was a director in a big tech firm in Oslo and had numerous responsibilities on his shoulders. But the most burdensome of all was his marriage to Emma. Emma, the soft woman who was as delicate as a spring breeze, had been his wife for 13 years. He didn't love her. He had married her due to immense family pressure. His heart belonged to Sophia, his co-worker at the office. She was vibrant with boundless energy. Her laughter brightened up his day, and her heated debates made him feel alive. She was like somebody who brought colors to his gray world that only he could see. He got used to her, fell in love with her, and never considered any other woman being a part of his world. But as life has a way of reminding us, nothing lasts, not even the beautiful moments. They are moments only, too brief to become anything else. Sophia came into his office one winter's night, and her face had a strange expression. He tried to determine what had changed, but she wouldn't say. Then abruptly, she said in a broken voice, "Olaf, Henrik asked me to marry him, and I said yes. We're moving to Stockholm at the end of the week." The words fell out of her mouth as though she did not wish to allow his brain time enough to fully process them. Olaf knew Henrik, an older man, wealthier than he could ever imagine, and the owner of the multinational corporation where they were both employed. No one could equal him, not in wealth, not in power, not even in love, once he had decided to pursue a woman. Olaf stared at her, stunned, his eyes wide, his mouth open, words stuck in the silence. He felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Sophia vanished, and with her so did his dreams. But he wasn't precisely on his own. I was always there for him, and so was our family. He plunged headfirst into work, trying to forget her. But he couldn't. Her ghost haunted every corner of his mind. No other woman could fill the place she had left. Ultimately, we all decided he had to get married. After many failed efforts, he acquiesced, only to put an end to our constant pressure. He married my best and only friend, Emma. And they had a son, Lucas, a sweet boy who became their sunshine in the darkest hour. Years passed. Olaf believed he had moved on from Sophia. He invested his energy in his family, thinking his old wounds had healed. But on a cold morning, while driving to work, the past was there, uninvited. He entered his office as usual, but froze. Sophia was sitting in his chair, as if she had staged the scene just to surprise him. She had returned to Oslo, shrouded in sorrow and with a smile made of memories. He had heard Henrik had passed away just a few days ago, but seeing her like this devastated him to his core. He couldn't take his eyes off her. The old emotions returned like a storm, stirring him from within, overpowering his mind and heart. It was as though she had never left, as though they had been parted only for a few hours. She spoke, and her voice still touched deep within him. Do you remember that night at the conference, when we fought because I gave the idea first? He smiled, involuntarily. The memory of how their eyes had met that evening flashed back, a moment which had changed all moments. She broke in on his thoughts again, whispering softly, You were always the best, and you always forgave me, and I loved you anyway. I still do. Then she looked into his eyes and asked, Do you still love me? He did not answer, but his eyes said more powerfully than words. She saw the war within him, and recognized her flame still burning in his heart. She moved closer, whispering, I was young then. I couldn't fight, but now perhaps we can make up for what we lost. He replied, his voice uncertain, trying to hold on to whatever balance he had left. Just like that. I have a wife, a son. I love them very much. She smiled faintly. I'm not asking you to abandon loving them. Just be with me. I have businesses now, money, but also enemies, more than friends. I cannot do this alone. I need you with me. I know you won't leave me. Will you, Olaf? He looked at her for a long time, then whispered, I won't leave you, Sophia. But I also can't leave my family behind. I just can't. The following days were a confused dream. They saw each other every day, talked for hours, bound by invisible cords of longing. He could not help contrasting Emma, mild, forbearing Emma, with passionate, vibrant Sophia. Her beauty was an enchantment. Olaf was defenseless against it. Then came a moment of brutal reality. He realized he was being unfair. His time with Emma was like painful empty roles in a play. He was cheating on her, a woman who had sinned in no way except that she loved him. She did not deserve this silent suffering, this dark shadow, so he knew he could no longer lie. He had to tell her the truth, no matter the price. One evening, Olaf sat across from Emma in the kitchen. He was silent, turning his coffee cup slowly around between his hands, searching its bottom for the words that he had lost. He hesitated so long, then whispered finally, "Emma, I'm sorry. I cannot continue living this lie." Emma lifted her gaze slowly, her face contorted in concern and confusion. Was he talking about the same thing she hadn't told him? Had he sensed the secret she'd imprisoned so deeply? Her hand hovered trembling. Her eyes unnerved him, and the words spilled from his mouth like bullets he hadn't meant to fire. "I'm in love with another woman, and I want a divorce." That was not the way he intended to say it, but it was too late. Words, like bullets, cannot be withdrawn once they are fired. She did not scream, she did not cry, she just looked at him in silence. Her lips parted slightly, but there was no sound, only her eyes spoke, and time froze between them. He wished she would scream, curse, do anything, just to hear she was still alive. But her silence struck him with more force than any scream. Her silence destroyed him. He felt something within him die, a weight upon his chest. He had committed an unforgivable act. Her eyes spoke volumes. Then suddenly she smiled. A faint, mysterious smile. He didn't understand, but it scared him. He felt in that moment that she had passed beyond him. He wished with all his heart that he could rewind time to when he spoke words he wasn't ready to say. He hadn't understood her smile then, but he would. Too late. She said quietly, "I accept, but I have two conditions." He stared at her in shocked surprise, as though she had slapped him with words this time. "So readily? And what are the conditions?" She said steadily, "First, we wait a month before we break up. Not for me, but for Lucas. His exams will be finished then. I don't want him to crack under the pressure." He paused. He was ashamed. How could he not have thought of that? How had his selfishness gone so far? "Yes, a month. It will pass quickly," he muttered. She continued, her eyes softer now. "And the other condition?" She breathed quietly. "I wish we could spend this month like a loving couple. No fight, no frost. I want all of us, me and you and Lucas and those people around us, to have a pretty image of us in our hearts." He wanted to say something, to protest, to explain to her that even now, sitting beside her, he was betraying her. But he couldn't. "Please," she went on, "I don't want to be remembered as the shadow of a woman betrayed." He nodded mutely. For the first time in years, he looked into her eyes and saw something odd. Maybe it was pain, maybe it was farewell. "You'll have what you insist on, Emma," he breathed. "I'll try my best to make it a month you deserve." She smiled weakly and stared at her trembling hand on the table. as if trying to hold on to something that was slowly slipping away. On those mornings of the month, the house transformed. The sun that passed through the windows was warmer. The aroma of coffee that Emma prepared every day had an inexplicable sense of peace. Olaf sat in the table, watching her put his cup down in front of him with a gentle smile. Not a duty smile, but a goodbye smile that was spoken wordlessly. Lucas was the center of their little world. Olaf started taking him to school every morning. They went to the same bakery for his favorite pastries and talked about everything. Space, dinosaurs, and why the sky is blue. For the first time, Olaf wasn't just hearing, he was listening. He wasn't there in body alone, he was there in heart. In the evenings, they cooked dinner together. Emma laughed when Olaf messed up chopping vegetables and Lucas on purpose flung flour on his dad. Laughter echoed through the house whose walls had not heard it in years. Olaf was not pretending, but with each laugh something small cracked inside him because he knew each moment of joy was a step toward the end. He watched Emma chat softly to Lucas, get his school clothes in order, kiss him goodnight, and something inside Olaf tore a little bit each time. He asked himself again and again, how had he treated her like a ghost all these years? How did he miss this well of peace and love? Emma was never cold, as he'd once thought. She simply waited for someone to take hold of her heart. One night, the three of them sat together watching an old movie. Olaf was squished in between, Lucas lying on one shoulder, Emma on the other. In the quietness of the moment, Olaf felt a deep feeling of warmth, not passion, though peace, a feeling he couldn't quite put his finger on, yet hoped that it would continue forever. It was not a goodbye that month. It was a page too beautiful to turn, and one that would never be forgotten. That evening, they were sitting in one of the serene glass rooms at the company where Sophia and Olaf would sit. But tonight no smiles, no gentle glances. Sophia was seated across from him, her eyes holding something different, doubt, disillusion, or a quiet fury. "You've changed, Olaf," she said, her voice cold, though her words cracked within. "You're not the same man." He didn't respond. He just looked at her. Her tone sharpened. "Do you still love your wife?" He hesitated, then said with rare honesty, "I don't know if it's love, but I've known that what Emma and I have is real, quiet, pure. It's something I never knew before, but now I see in my son's laughter, the quiet nights at home, in the small things I never valued." Sophia taunted, a biting sarcasm on her lips. She leaned forward. "Have you forgotten? I gave you life. I gave you dreams, passion, power. Emma, she's just your safe shadow." Then she stood, her voice rising. "I have money, I have influence, I can buy anything, even you. Do you understand?" Olaf looked up at her, steady and calm, something she hadn't seen before. "I'm not for sale, Sophia. Perhaps I was late to see it, but now I know who I am and what I want." She stepped forward, her voice threatening and low. "You don't know me, Olaf. I can kill you. I can eliminate you from this company, from all the circles, shut all the doors in your face." He stared at her for a long moment, then stated, his voice soft but keen as a knife, "If you believe I am afraid of losing, then you do not know me. He rose, looked into her eyes, a long final glance, as if releasing a memory once that had been everything, and stated with serene finality, "Goodbye, Sophia." He left her there, standing in a silence heavy with pride, pain, and a chill deeper than autumn's. And as he turned and walked away from her, he felt his chest expand, free from a weight that had brought him down for years. He didn't look back. He didn't delay. He had somewhere to return, a home that was finally waiting for him, a place where his son's laughter brightened up each night, and Emma's gentle eyes yearned for nothing but his presence. He had to get on that train, the one called happiness. The one he came to know too late doesn't wait for second guessing. The month went by, as seconds have a tendency to when lived with open hearts. The days were not counted by numbers, but by the warmth of every passing second they shared together. Each morning dawned anew, each evening returned a piece of themselves that had almost vanished. But in that piece, something began to whisper. Silent fear began creeping into Olaf's heart. He noticed a faint pallor on Emma's face. It was subtle at first, but growing. Her voice, once gentle and bright, now grew weak. Her laugh, once rich, now had a quiet tiredness behind it. He asked her softly and repeatedly, "Are you okay?" She always answered with a slight smile and a whispery voice, "I'm fine. Just a little tired, that's all." But he was not reassured. But he didn't push her. Maybe he didn't want to ruin her mood. Or maybe he didn't want to assume there was something to ruin her mood. But he saw everything, her lagging footsteps, her gazing into space, the fatigue she tried to hide. And he didn't know that his worst nightmare was about to be exposed just days later. It was on a rainy evening when Olaf came back home yelling, "Emma! Lucas!" No response. He headed to the kitchen. The living room? Empty? Then he saw her, slumped over in the hallway, unconscious, completely still. "Emma!" he yelled, running towards her. His heart nearly blew up. He held her slumped body in his arms. Her skin cool, her face deathly white, her breathing shallow, like life itself had begun to recede from her. He didn't think. He grabbed his phone and called for an ambulance. His hands shook as he clung to her, repeating her name. "Emma, please don't do this to me. Open your eyes. Say something." The ambulance arrived. They rushed her in. Olaf sat in the back beside her, holding her lifeless hand, unable to look away from her face. Fear, pure, blinding fear, consumed him. "You'll be okay. Just hold on, please." The sirens wailed, machines beeped, his heart pounding, all blending into a moment he'd never forget. And he didn't know. This moment would change everything. At the hospital, the doctor entered softly and spoke with crushing calm. "Mrs. Emma is in the final stage of cancer. She has only days left." Olaf collapsed. He sat next to her, kissing her hand, sobbing openly. "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked at him weakly, whispering, "Same night, you came asking for a divorce? I had just left the doctor's. I just wanted to leave you with a good memory, especially for Lucas." The final goodbye. A week later, Emma passed away. No screams, no complaint, just silence, as always. Olaf wept like he never wept before. He did not release her hand, not even when it grew cold. At the funeral, Lucas went up to his dad and handed him an envelope. Dad, Mom asked me to give this to you after she passed on. With shaking hands, Olaf opened the letter and read, I knew someday you'd understand that real love isn't fiery passion. It's the memory that lingers, even when we're dead. I loved you in silence, and I only hoped that you had seen a little closer.